Iraq, site of ancient Mesopotamia and the cradle of civilization. In the remains of the ancient city of Nineveh, Sumerian tablets dating back to as early as 1800 BC tell the story of King Gilgamesh. In this epic poem, Gilgamesh has a companion named Enkidu, who is described as a hairy wild man living outside human society.
What is fascinating about the Epic of Gilgamesh is the fact that it relates to us a story of Enkidu, who allegedly was a giant. It is possible that Enkidu, this wild, hairy beast, this giant, could have been of extraterrestrial origin, because that is what the ancient Sumerian texts are saying.
Enkidu is described in the Epic of Gilgamesh as being a hairy, man-like monster with great strength. And when you read that story, and you have to think that Enkidu is some kind of Bigfoot, SASQUATCH.
This is the actual first fashioned being by the gods, where they put their genetic marker on it to make a new being that would be their slave, and they called this being the Enkidu.
Is it possible, as ancient astronaut theorists suggest, that the Epic of Gilgamesh actually describes a hominid creature created by extraterrestrial beings? Sumerian texts also describe ancient sky gods who came to Earth, called the Anunnaki.
The ancient astronaut theory explains how these gods were probably extraterrestrials and put their genetic marker on this beast, but that beast would still exist and probably went on its own evolutionary path to be the Bigfoot and the Sasquatch that we have today.
Do ancient accounts of such human-like beasts provide further evidence that this otherworldly being may have really existed throughout our history? Some believe the giant in the Old Testament story of David and Goliath may also be an early representation of Bigfoot.
If you think about the story of David and Goliath from the Bible, Goliath is huge and he's big and he's hairy, but he doesn't live on the edge of civilization or avoid people. He's really being used as a weapon, almost, a weapon of terror against the Israelites.
When you start reading the Bible in more detail and descriptions of these giants, there were various other big creatures in our ancestors' world which we no longer are aware of, and Bigfoot might just be one category which somehow has been able to survive. Whether or not Goliath is a Bigfoot, they definitely sit within the same category of a creature which clearly is not human, but clearly is also present here, and which is taller than our ancestors were.
My question is, what is the truth behind this particular story? And it is possible, as some scholars have suggested, that Goliath might have been an extraterrestrial, that he was a type of giant, a human abomination, a half-alien, half-human creature that was so terrifying, so horrendous, that David took it upon himself to vanquish that beast.
All cultures across the world, whether it's South America, Native American Indians, Europe, Russia, China, Tibet, Australia, all these nations have legends and tales of giant hairy wild men. Now, you know, people say, well, legends are just legends. But when you have cultures and countries separated by oceans, all talking about very similar things, to me, this does suggest that in times past, these things were very, very prevalent and widespread across the world.